Hello, welcome to Wednesday. It is Wisdom Wednesday, as promised. A little later coming to you than expected for me, but maybe there will be more of you online live. So if you have any questions, I invite you to, I'm sitting at my desk, so it's easier for me to see the comments, and they're right there, but I might need to put my glasses on for it. So wanted to share with you a little aspect of people pleasing that people do to their detriment. And there's a lot of ways that we do people pleasing, and you may resonate with this particular one. And this is coming up from a conversation that I was having with someone recently. And she was expressing her frustration with people in her life that seem needy, and they're only seemingly to be around when they need something and they're not there for her, and they're not checking in on her either. But she's quite the caring person and she will check in on them. But it comes to a point when we do this over and over again, where we're constantly caregiving for others or doing the things for others, when we don't feel like we're getting our cup filled back, and maybe there's not reciprocation or whatever you want to call it, we start to feel a little frustrated and maybe agitated that we've been giving so much and these other people aren't giving back to us. So I want you to think about this in a little bit different way. So you've heard me say this in many different Facebook Lives, probably, that what we hold in our mind is what we get more of. So one of the things that the person was sharing with me is that these people seem needy. And one thing that when we focus on something like that, well, when we start noticing that, for example, if I'm starting to notice that people are seeming to be needy around me, I need to check back in. And you may have heard people say, like, if you spot it, you got it, meaning if you see somebody has an issue, then you have that issue. Well, it's not quite that black and white or cut and dry. What it really means is check in with where you are with that statement. One thing is, you could be thinking all the time about how you're getting the lack thereof something. Therefore, it's putting more out there that someone's being needy. So you're attracting more needy people to you. There's another part of that too, though, is what does it mean about you when people aren't asking you about yourself? Are you worthwhile? Are you deserving of that attention? Are you deserving of care? Do you feel, and I know if I were to sit in front of you right now and ask you these questions, you would probably say, well, of course I deserve attention. I deserve care. I deserve my friends to ask me questions about me. But remember, I had shared something in a Facebook Live a couple weeks ago. When someone's complimenting us and we dismiss it, that is a sign to the universe, to our energy, that we don't want that kind of attention. And maybe it's like saying tomato, tomato, like, I didn't say that I didn't want that. I just don't want this. Well, we have to be really specific about what we do desire. If we do want attention, we do want good friends in our lives, or we want a good conversation and good communication with people, you may be giving that to somebody, but we have to look a little bit deeper into how are we presenting ourselves to others. So now I don't want to get into, I don't want you to think that, okay, this is a highly sensitive person trait, and this is what always happens to me because I'm an HSP. That's not it. I don't believe that. I think that we are highly sensitive for reasons of the higher good, not when we're going to go into victim mode. I think that when we are extra sensitive, we can go more easily into victim mode, but that is certainly not where I want you to be. I want you to get into a more empowered state, and that is why I'm sharing this right now. When we've noticed that somebody is feeling, let's go back to the not getting reciprocated, not being checked in on. What is that about? Did we push away a lot of other attention that preceded that? And it might not be directly within a few days or a few months, but we need to look at our patterns. What are we doing and what are we putting out there to the world that tells the universe, I do or don't want attention? And it's not that any attention we push away means we're not going to get some. We just have to be a little more specific about our desires. And when we find ourselves, I don't want to say complaining, but maybe it is complaining. When we're complaining or bringing it up to other people, or not even if we're not even saying the words, because sometimes, and I would say a lot of times with highly sensitive people, we're very empathic. We pick up a lot of stuff of other people on our own. We're not sure whose is whose. So we just don't say anything sometimes, and we will just keep it to ourselves. We'll bottle it up, and then we'll swirl it around. When I mean swirl it around, I mean we're thinking about it. We're ruminating about it. The thoughts are living, they're existing, they're getting some life, and it's like a story that's being told inside our minds. Every time we hold something in our minds, we are projecting that energy somehow out into the universe. If we're not processing it through, meaning if we're finding some kind of annoyance with it, or there's any level of agitation, frustration, it's bothering me in any way, even if it's a 1, there's something there. And we want to clear that. We want to let that go. And I don't mean just sit around and go, yeah, okay, I'm just going to let that go. There are processes around that you can do it. You could do tapping, there's havening, there's all kinds of different things you can do. But sometimes when we are in our own way, we can't seem to see the forest for the trees in it. We need a perspective shift. We need to get out of the middle of the forest to kind of step back and go, oh, that's what I was doing, or I didn't even notice. And it's not your fault. And I'm not saying that you should know better, or, don't stop doing this because it's silly. I mean, all in all, we don't want to be doing these things. We don't want to push attention away that is positive attention and dismiss things. If we want to have good relationships with other people, and we want that reciprocation, and you feel you're already delivering that in your relationships, it's time to look at some other aspects of ourselves. That's the main point here. So where else might I be contributing to this relationship? Because remember, it is a dance that we do with people. So if someone is not reciprocating to you, you might want to flat out ask them. I notice, make I statements, of course. I notice whenever I have an issue, you don't seem to be there for me. Am I making that up? Or, whenever you have an issue, I'm always there for you. What gives? What's there? And sometimes that might be a really, really uncomfortable conversation to have, because that means we might get confrontation. It might feel confrontational to the other person, or we might feel like just even asking the question, even if we're coming from the heart and saying, listen, I'm really hurt by this. It might still feel confrontational because you're not sure how the other person is going to react to something, because they may take it or perceive it as judgment. I get that. However, we're never going to know unless we ask the question, either of ourselves or the other people. Sometimes other people and the relationships are just not meant to be in our circle. And sometimes the universe is just giving us the signs to make the decision that A, B, or C person who is acting this way isn't my cup of tea and really isn't holding space for me and might not be a good supportive person for me. And that's where we have to make those distinctions. It doesn't matter how long you've known somebody. And sometimes when we've known people longer, we tend to tolerate them longer. And then it just becomes a pattern of what they do and then what we do. And then those kinds of relationships, those do build up over time. And we can get really agitated because maybe in the beginning it was okay and something outweighed the toleration at the time. So we go ahead and deal with it. But then maybe 4 years, 5 years later, we're just like, you know what? This kind of sucks. I don't like this dynamic anymore. And I've never said anything. And here it has gone into this blown out of proportion or whatever. But I don't want to say like, oh, that's on you. You got to fix it. But this is where I'm saying step back and see, where did you play a role in the shaping of this relationship or this dynamic specifically? And remember, as I mentioned, sometimes some people just aren't meant to be in our circle anymore. When we are growing and we're elevating, some people aren't going to shift and grow and change with us. And sometimes that can be the hardest, painful reality when we are leveling ourselves up. Some people don't like it, and we have to deal with that too. But when we are shifting, changing, and growing, we want to allow ourselves to blossom and grow and become those dreams that we have for ourselves. And there are going to be people that are going to want to hold you back because they're going to see the shift and the change because they have not evolved themselves enough to see you and celebrate you. Instead, they want to hold you back. And that is what they will do if you keep them in your lives. And you have to evaluate closely, is this person someone I value enough to keep in my life? Are they offering enough to me that we have a reciprocal relationship, that it's a give win-win or a give-give or whatever you want to call it? right? If it's more of a, I'm always giving and they're never giving and I'm not receiving anything, again, you want to step back. You don't want to make any harsh judgments without evaluation. But you do want to look at it. Okay. So my thoughts about this, with this person I had shared, also, whenever we start to notice that somebody might be needy or they're not reciprocating, and if we only stay on that piece of it, the part that's bothering us, and we just think like every time they want to call us or text us or share something with us and it's all about them, then while they're talking to us and we're like, oh, here we go again, it's all about them. Or, oh yeah, they didn't even ask me about me again. There it is. And then you hang up with them or you're part from them, and you're thinking to yourself, all of those thoughts, that is creative stuff, meaning you're going to get more of that either from that person or another person. So if you're in the place where you're finding that you have multiple people that are demonstrating this same dynamic, it is definitely a time to sit back and say, okay, what's the common theme here? And where do I play a role? So I hope this is helpful for you. This is an aspect I would consider of people pleasing, as I had mentioned in the title here, where we do so much for others and care give so much for others, and we want to be there for them that we don't tell them like enough is enough, or, and you don't want to be mean to people. And I don't have to explain every little detail here, but when I start talking, I have all these branches of ideas. So this is where I go. You see my eyes going. That's me thinking another thought. There's another thing. There's another thing. And things pop in. And I want to share it all with you, but it's just not possible. And then these get too long. So I'm trying to keep them a little more succinct for you. So people pleasing, that is an aspect there. And we can do it to our detriment for sure. And I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. And we don't have to keep doing it though. We can dial it back by honoring ourselves where we're at, noticing what's going on in the outside and doing something about it, whether it's allowing a friendship to fall away, maybe making the hard decision to let the person know, here's my boundaries, or here is how this friendship works for me, or how it's not working for me now, or I think we need to take a break. Friends break up too sometimes. Or evaluate yourself and what you might be contributing and make adjustments and updates, or, level yourself up in the ways that you feel would be appropriate. So if you have any questions or you want to ask anything or engage about this, please put in the comments below. I would love to talk with you more about it. And then I go into a little bit more detail about people pleasing, and that's one of the mistakes that highly sensitive people make in my Highly Sensitive Person Fearless Freedom Masterclass. I'll be hosting another one next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The link is already in the group, but I'll probably share it separately again. And I hope to see you there. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and future Wisdom Wednesdays will either be about questions that you ask me, some intuitive guidance. Maybe I'll pull a card like I mentioned before. So I'd like to hear from you. I still have to get that poll out to you to find out what you would really like, and we will go from there. So any questions, comments, you can always direct message me too. All right. Have a great Wednesday. Bye-bye.